Now, in tonight's debate, Dr. Drange and I have been invited to assess two competing worldviews, atheism versus theism, in answer to the question, does God exist? Accordingly, I'm going to defend two basic contentions tonight. Number one, that there are no good reasons to think that atheism is true. And number two, there are good reasons to think that theism is true. So let me say a word about that first major contention, that there are no good reasons to think that atheism is true. Now, Dr. Drange has two arguments for atheism, which I've read in his published works, and I frankly don't find either of them very compelling, but it would be inappropriate for me to attack them before they're presented. So I'll simply wait to hear them and then respond in my next speech. So let me turn at this point, without further ado, to the defense of my second basic contention, that there are good reasons to think that theism is true. Now, tonight I'm going to present 5 reasons why I think theism makes more sense than atheism. And if you're following in your outline, I'm going to skip the argument from abstract objects and go straight to the argument that God makes sense of the origin of the universe. Have you ever asked yourself why anything at all exists? Why the universe exists? Where everything came from instead of just nothing? Well, typically, atheists have said that the universe is just eternal, and that's all. But surely this doesn't make sense. Just think about it for a minute. If the universe never had a beginning, then that means that the number of events in the history of the universe is infinite. But mathematicians recognize that the idea of an actually infinite number of things leads to self-contradictions. For example, what is infinity minus infinity? Well, mathematically, you get self-contradictory answers. This shows that infinity is just an idea in your mind, not something that exists in reality. David Hilbert, perhaps the greatest mathematician of this century, states, "The infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea." But that entails that since past events are not just ideas, but are real, that the number of past events must be finite. Therefore, the series of past events can't go back forever. Rather, the universe must have begun to exist. This conclusion has been confirmed by remarkable discoveries in astronomy and astrophysics. The astrophysical evidence indicates that the universe began to exist in a great explosion called the Big Bang about 15 billion years ago. Physical space and time were created in that event, as well as all the matter and energy in the universe. Therefore, as the Cambridge astronomer Fred Hoyle points out, the Big Bang theory requires the creation of the universe from nothing. This is because as you go back in time, you reach a point at which, in Hoyle's words, the universe was shrunk down to nothing at all. Thus, what the Big Bang model requires is that the universe began to exist and was created out of nothing. Now, this tends to be very awkward for the atheist. For as Anthony Kenny of Oxford University urges, a proponent of the Big Bang theory, at least if he is an atheist, must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing. But surely that doesn't make sense. Out of nothing, nothing comes. So why does the universe exist instead of just nothing? Where did it come from? There must have been a cause which brought the universe into being. Now, from the very nature of the case, this cause must have been an uncaused, changeless, timeless, and immaterial being which created the universe. It must be uncaused because there cannot be an infinite regress of causes. It must be timeless and therefore changeless, at least without the universe, because it created time. because it also created space. It must transcend space and therefore be immaterial, not physical. Moreover, I want to argue it must also be personal. For how else could a timeless cause give rise to a temporal effect like the universe? If the cause were just a mechanically operating set of necessary and sufficient conditions, then the cause could never exist without the effect. If the cause is timelessly present, then the effect would be timelessly present as well. The only way for the cause to be timeless and for the effect to begin to exist in time would be if the cause is a personal agent who freely chooses to create an effect in time without any prior determining conditions. And thus, we're brought not merely to a transcendent cause of the universe, but to its personal creator. Isn't it incredible that the Big Bang Theory thus fits in with what the Christian theist has always believed, that in the beginning, God created the universe? Now, I put it to you, which is more probable, that the Christian theist is right, or that the universe just popped into being, uncaused, out of nothing? I at least don't have any trouble assessing these probabilities. Number two, God makes sense of the complex order in the universe. During the last 30 years, scientists have discovered that the existence of intelligent life depends upon a complex and delicate balance of initial conditions simply given in the Big Bang itself. We now know that life-prohibiting universes are vastly more probable than any life-permitting universe like ours. How much more probable? Well, before I give you an estimation, let me just give you some numbers to give you a feel for the odds. The number of seconds in the history of the universe is 10 to the 18th power. That's 10 followed by 18 zeros. The number of subatomic particles in the entire known universe is said to be about 10 to the 80th power. Now, with those numbers in mind, consider the following. Donald Page, one of America's eminent cosmologists, has calculated the odds of our universe existing as being on the order of 1 chance out of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 124, a number which is so inconceivable that to call it astronomical would be a wild understatement. Our discovery of the fine-tuning of the Big Bang for intelligent life is like someone's trudging through the Sahara Desert and rounding a sand dune, suddenly being encountered with a skyscraper the size of the Empire State Building. We would rightly dismiss as mad any suggestion that it just happened to come together there by chance. And we would find equally insane the idea that any arrangement of sand particles at that place is improbable, and therefore there's nothing to be explained. But why is this? Well, I think it's because the skyscraper exhibits a complexity which is absent from just random arrangements of sand. But why should the complexity of the skyscraper strike us as special? John Leslie, the contemporary philosopher who has most occupied himself with this question, says it is because there is an evident explanation of the complex skyscraper, an explanation which is not suggested by just random arrangements of sand, namely intelligent design. In the same way, Leslie concludes, the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life points to the evident explanation of intelligent design.